evening, viewers. The day after Tamil Nadu Assembly passed the Tamil Nadu government bill, which is the anti-neet bill, seeking exemption for the state for medical aspirants to take the National Medical Entrance Exam NEET. A day after this took place, another aspirant killed herself in Ariyalur district of the state. According to the family, the girl was depressed over her poor performance in the recently held NEET exam. This, in fact, is the second such instance that's taken place. A second suicide linked to NEET exam, second suicide of a NEET aspirant in 3 days in the state of Tamil Nadu. On Sunday, it was a 20-year-old aspirant who died by suicide hours before the NEET exam. This was in Salem. Now, for Tamil Nadu, this has always been a big story, a big concern. One of the reasons for that is the way it's pressurizing the students, the state claims, leading to suicides. 32 student suicides have so far taken place in our country, across the country, in about 3 years. 46% of these were reported from Tamil Nadu itself. So, of the 32 student lives that we have lost, almost half of them came from Tamil Nadu. 55% of the suicides were in the month when the results were declared for NEET exam, hence the correlation. 65% were because of academic challenges. 78% also were linked to anxiety, others due to other mental health issues. Now, this is obviously one of the reasons why it's such a huge topic for people and for politicians in the state of Tamil Nadu, and hence the anti-NEET bill that came about yesterday. Now, what does this bill really do? It exempts aspirants from taking the NEET exam for admission in medical colleges and medical courses. In fact, allows them admission basis marks in a school qualifying exam. It seeks to bring vulnerable students in mainstream medical education. Essentially, they say that the NEET is unfair as it favors the rich and the elite who have access to good quality education. Other boards have money to pay for private tuitions, and so they're able, or they get an advantage when they give this exam. So the preamble of the bill itself is to override NEET. The other big argument that's given, it's also mentioned here, is that the healthcare system itself will be hit in the state of Tamil Nadu if this exam continues. Now, we've had a series of conversations around NEET, especially what happens in Tamil Nadu, why it's always a big concern, and if this one state actually passes a bill against the exam, can other states also do? Remember, education is a concurrent subject, which means the state also has powers to make rules, to design laws and implement those policies in the state, and the center also has a role to play, which is where now a big debate lies. But if there is problem in one state, should it not be also in other states? Is there a larger issue with the National Medical Entrance Exam that we have in our country right now? Or is it limited to just one state? The arguments for those who are from the rural background, who are from a social and economic backward background, would be the same for anywhere else. Do we see such level of high number of suicides in other states? Why is it that it's only a big political issue when it comes to state of Tamil Nadu? And what good will this bill do? A similar bill was passed by when the previous government was in power, the AIADMK government. That bill was sent to the president. It never got the president's nod. This time, will it be different? There's so many questions that we're going to ask yet again tonight. As I say good evening to Narayan Tirupati, spokesperson for Tamil Nadu BJP, America Narayanan, spokesperson, member of AICC, Dr. Kaushal Verma, former Dean for Examinations at AIIMS, Professor Dr. Anita Ramesh Chandra, Professor of Medical Oncology at Savita Medical College and Hospital, Dr. Jawahar Neeson, member of the Justice A.K. Rajan committee that was formed by the Tamil Nadu government to really look into NEET in the state. And I want to start off with him. Dr. Jawahar, thank you so much for coming back on our show. We've had a conversation about a few days ago when this bill was being tabled in the assembly. But let me understand once again, and let's explain to our viewers, what is it that is unique to Tamil Nadu and its opposition to NEET? Why is it such a big problem in the state of Tamil Nadu?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to this debate. The problem in Tamil Nadu is that it is one of the highly acute states on the healthcare system, and it is up to the tertiary level. It has acute to the level that it is on par with international standards. The worry is that because of the NEET and the discriminations we are going to face among the diverse population in entering medical education, we feel that this is going to affect the healthcare system, especially the public healthcare system. And our report says, and our analysis concludes, it has already started affecting the diverse representation of all population in the healthcare system. And mainly the public healthcare system is going to be affected. This is one thing. And if you look at the aspirants, the medical aspirants across different sections of the society, like the rural background, students from rural background, students from Tamil medium studies, and from less parental income, and from the state board examinations, state board studies, students from state board studies. All students have been affected by the NEET. If you look at the trend in the admission statistics, before NEET and after NEET, you will find at least, say for instance, 11% drop in the rural students, and about 10% drop in the first generation graduates who have been enjoying previously. And the Tamil medium students were most affected. Previously, they were enjoying averagely about 17 plus percentage. And now it is reduced to less than 2%. So they lost more than 15% seats. So that means that all walks of life have been affected because of the NEET. And also, those who are from CBSE board studies are getting more seats now comparatively. Previously, it was like 0.39% in government medical colleges. Now it has reached more than around 40%, about 37, 38% increase. That means that the state board students' share has been curtailed. So these are all the major issues. One of the main issues that we are worried about is that the World Medical Education Federation says that a medical education especially should have a diverse representation from all walks of life. And if they are discouraged from entering into these studies, then those population would be affected, because people who are getting admissions mainly from the background of the affluent community or from the urban communities and well-off communities are people. If they get the seats, then they are not going to serve in the rural segments or in other diverse geography. So these are all the problems that it is going to have a greater impact in the future. So these are all the main reasons that Tamil Nadu is worried. And yeah, please, madam.
Okay. I take the points that you've made, but I mean, one would say that some of these issues should ideally also be cropping up in many other states, which they don't seem to. Definitely nowhere close to the level they do in Tamil Nadu. I completely agree with you. You don't need actually an international institution to tell you that better and wider representation from various segments should be there in medical or any other profession. That should be there, and it is the responsibility of the center and the states and all authorities together to ensure that takes place. But are we looking at in the wrong sense? Is the solution to do away with NEET, Professor Anita Ramesh, or should we be looking at more colleges, better infrastructure, more similarities, uniformity in the boards, accessibility for special tuitions, if that is what certain segments of the and classes need. Shouldn't those be part of the solution?
Yes, you are right. I do agree with you. Being a professor in a medical college, I'm directly students on a daily basis. And with the advent of NEET, the quality of the medical students which is coming in is much better compared to what we used to see previously. And I also agree with you. Yes, particularly if you are real with the people in the rural India, those people who do not have access to education or private tuition or backward classes or studying in government institution, we have to support from the government those institutions, give them special education, make education accessible to them, put them into syllabus and bring them to the same level of the exam which is happening in all India. As an India, we have to progress together. So our prime duty is not to slash one exam, but to make the country or the state be competent with everybody by giving them special coaching, I'm also in favor of if some portion of the marks are given extra to those people who are in CBSE, government school, rural areas, backward, right? So that their marks comes up. But NEET should be done because it's an uniform ground where the qualifying exams all over India, everybody is at the same level who gives this exam. So it is, and being in the college, I see the quality of students are really good. And those who have passed, because all have studied, all are aspirants, all have got into with the intent to treat, and the quality of the medical education should not come because it's one of the premier educations in the country. So I request everybody, let's work together to develop all the backward areas where it is really needed, and so make them competent to have a single exam. And I think the NEET exam is not that tough, because my assistant gave, and she said, madam, it is just completely clinical. Okay, what we do or it's just very basic things what we are giving. And the exams are not at all very difficult, but then some pass mark is needed in NEET to get a seat.
Yes, let's just also keep in mind that this isn't an issue that has come now. It has been widely debated since its inception. It actually has gone all the way to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court has decided in the merit in favor of NEET and said that no, this must continue. Obviously, for any examination system, whether it's IITG or NEET or AICT, whichever one, there will always be problems in a country as large as ours, as diverse as ours. But are we looking at it the right way? Dr. Kaushal Verma, should we then, the way Tamil Nadu is suggesting, should we just look at individual state entrance policies to various medical exams? Various regions, various states, various districts at some point will begin to say, we will design our own rules.
Thank you for inviting me to your program. It's very sad to know that 2 young lives have been lost, and my deepest condolences to their families. But I think we need to look at the genesis of the NEET. There used to be multiple exams by different bodies, and also there used to be multiple exams which were conducted by the different institutions and the states. So the students have to undergo, say, various tests at different levels at different times. So that's why the idea was, in fact, brought into the conception that, yes, we should have one exam which should give a single platform to all the students to compete, and then they can choose the place and the college where they want to study. Now the question arises, is this a perfect system? There is no perfect system. There could be problems with any of these systems, the previous systems, the current systems. And the 2 important problems which I see is one, that there is no uniformity in the education system. The education system in different states is different. And also even say in the metropolitan cities also, it is varying from smaller cities to the bigger cities, and the language issues which are also there. Like people in certain metropolitan cities, they are having the primary language as English. And in the other states or smaller places, they have the local language, or maybe the language which is commonly spoken there, or the Hindi language. So some of these students, they feel that they are put at a disadvantageous position. But if you look at the system as such, I think it gives the single platform. It's the single examination where the students can compete. And then they can choose the medical college or the place of their choice where they want to study. The other thing, what used to happen earlier, that the one combined exam used to be held at the All India level, where the students were competing. And then the states were also holding their own exams. So the people who were not able to, say, qualify or not able to figure in the merit list in different colleges through the NEET, they used to apply, and some of them were getting placed through their own state medical entrance exams also. So I think we need to address the issues which are there. But NEET has been brought into, say, practice because of, say, multiple exams and to bring the uniformity in the examination system.
Uniformity in examination system is one argument, but there are many others who say, well, why should it be uniform? Each state has a different setup. Each board is a different setup. It is in the concurrent list where the states also have a say for a specific reason. Tamil Nadu doesn't want to give up on that. Yes, Mr. America and Iran. Go ahead, please. What would you like to say?
Well, you rightfully said that Tamil Nadu has been different. Tamil Nadu has always been different, and we in Tamil Nadu have been really leading India on various issues. Today, you talked about Hindi imposition, now it's trending in Karnataka. See, I think it's a question of states' rights, and the parties in Tamil Nadu have understood what I remember an IAS officer who worked directly for Indira Gandhi said. As a mother, you love your child, but you hold your child too close, hug it too close, the child pushes you. The Modi Sarkar today is trying to bring one language, one religion, and that is what this pushback is all about. It's not a question of the exam alone. Yes, the exam is one of the points. I think the states know better. As a matter of fact, the Dravidian parties who talk about the rights of state are not willing to give the rights to the panchayat. That's a different issue. Everybody wants to centralize their power, and Modi Sarkar is literally centralized the power into the PMO's office. So I think a guy in the Delhi does not know a person in Kanyakumari village what he needs to learn. That's one. Meritocracy, we are pushing meritocracy as the reason for this NEET exam.
So, Mr. Narayanan, are we to then just say that simply any decision that comes from the center will be opposed just for the heck of it without getting into the merits of it? What is wrong in having a national entrance exam and a uniform, similar opportunity program for everybody?
Well, that's where I'm getting to. We are not all the same. It's like you asking me, why can't everybody wear size 5 shoes? Everybody is different.
No, it's not the same, Mr. America Narayanan. This is about medical education that helps us create doctors in our country.
Ask me a question, let me answer it.
Science is the same. It has nothing to do with culture.
It has to do with everything. All I'm trying to tell you is that, for example, now everybody goes into NEET. What happens to, as somebody has pointed out earlier, Tamil Nadu gives students from villages a head start by giving a certain additional mark. Now, how does he compare? Now, Tamil Nadu has been in the forefront of education change right from the 80s by introducing privatizing education, and which gave more opportunity, which brought more colleges into Tamil Nadu. Now, we have paid our taxes. We have built these institutions. Now, people from other places, he who pays the piper should call for the tune. Now, people with Tamil Nadu taxes, people are coming and taking our seats in the name of merit. Now, you have to understand there has to be a common thing. I agree with you. But it also, there has to be individualistic. Now, people cannot, let's say somebody failed an exam. Now, that's what they're afraid of. Why is this suicides happening? If they fail this exam, it's all or nothing. Now, in the past, they had various options. Now, it's everything. My life depends on it. It should not. So there are various things. I think you should not look at meritocracy. It is not meritocracy. And I think people who had gone, we have seen in life, people who don't go, who have been into IITs have not necessarily all the time done well. The people who had gone to rural colleges have done well. So it's not a meritocracy that the so-called mark is not the meritocracy. The so-called book knowledge is not meritocracy. Even in the US, they understand there are certain bias in the educational testing services, GMATs and whatnot. They bring in diversity, bringing foreign students, everything else.
They also have entrance exams of some kind or the other. They also have common tests, some kind or the other. Mr. America and Iran, whether they live in US or they go from anywhere across, from anywhere other part of the world, they still have to give the same common test to get at the same level. There may be other criteria. It's not just NEET, but not just one entrance exam, all right. But to say that this format just doesn't work for us because we are the only unique state in the country, I think we need to dig in deeper. Mr. Narayan Tirupati, we need, allow me to go to our other panelists.
Wrongly presenting facts, ma'am. I'll tell you, the common entrance exam in the US, be it SAT or anything, are not the only criteria.
Of course, it's not the only criteria, but it exists. They don't outright dismiss it, and it's a very important criteria that they look at. Anybody who goes from our country, including students or youngsters from Tamil Nadu, will also be taking the same exams. And there I don't hear this argument. But allow me to go to our other panelists, please. Mr. Narayanan Tirupati. How is it become such a big issue in Tamil Nadu? And I don't want to just make this about BJP versus Congress or BJP versus DMK or, AIA DMK versus DMK. I'm simply asking you, is there a role that politics has played into fueling this issue in the state?
First of all, I would like to say that Mr. Jawahar Nason, who was speaking here, as a member of the committee which was formed by the Tamil Nadu government recently, they have not, come out with the findings in public domain. First of all, we have to, you should have asked him that question, why they have not come out. So, number one. Number two is that what all, arguments he made, it was made in the Supreme Court during the NEET, cases, and the Supreme Court categorically has very clearly stated that what all the government of Tamil Nadu had argued and the others against NEET argued was false. It was false, and the statistics, the facts, everything was false. Because after NEET, before NEET, we have to see this, before NEET, what has happened was the schools which were in Namakkal, Salem, Rasipuram, Krishnagiri, Uttangarai, and all these places where, you have mushroom schools, only for, getting admission in medical colleges. And that plus the Chennai city, it constituted more than 80% of the seats in Tamil Nadu. After NEET, all the districts have got representation in double digits. Whether it is Perambalur, whether it is Ariyalur, whether it is Ramanathapuram, even Ooty, the Nilgiris district, where, for many years, not even a single student was able to, they were able to get into medical colleges. But nowadays, after NEET, it is possible throughout Tamil Nadu, all the students are coming in. Before NEET, only around 200 students were there. Almost for a decade, 10 years, only 200 students from Tamil Nadu government school students were admitted into the system, the medical system. So, what all they claim, the discrimination and also, the village students, all these things are false. All these things are false because the system of education in Tamil Nadu is totally business. The people who are doing business in education, particularly, as I mentioned, the schools in Namakkal, Rasipuram, Salem, those areas, and also Tamil Nadu is the one state where you have got a lot of CBSE schools over and above the Tamil Nadu government schools. We have thousands of CBSE schools, and all these are private schools almost, and the NOC was given by the state government itself. Number two, the thing is that normalization method, which was happening previously, was definitely neutral. We have to understand this. The normalization method, which was adopted in 2006 by Ananthakrishnan Committee, the same Ananthakrishnan 2 years back, now he is no more. Before 3 months he died. Before 2 years back, he said he has made a very big mistake in his lifetime by bringing in this normalization method. Because he said that he has done injustice to the students. It was not unilateral. That's what he mentioned. So, after the Supreme Court has given its verdict and judgment and orders, and after the NEET had come, anyway, social justice is not being affected. 69% is the thing. And even in All India quota, more number of Tamil Nadu students are getting more seats. In fact, after NEET has come, more Tamil Nadu students are getting into medical colleges throughout India. So, what all arguments they have been saying is definitely not fair.
What we can do, Mr. Tirupati, is the point that you raised is to say we don't know what the findings are. We've spoken with various members, one of them on our panel tonight, including as well as the head of that committee, Justice Rajan, on this issue. What we've been told is that they had representations from 86,000 stakeholders. The report, they claim, found that a majority of them did not want NEET. On the basis of the findings is when this decision was taken. Allow me to just put basics and then I can ask for more details on it. The panel found that the NEET favors only the rich and the elite sections because they have access to private tuitions, they can prepare better, etc., etc. It also said it has hit students from both urban and rural areas, particularly those whose families earn less than 2.5 lakh rupees a year and who have studied in Tamil medium schools. It went on to make the argument then in this report that if the NEET continues, the healthcare system in the state will be badly affected. But since we have Dr. Jawahar Nissan with us, Dr. Jawahar, would you want to give us specific findings and specific facts from this report to respond to what Mr. Tirupati is saying?
I see. I'd just like to answer Mr. Narayan Tirupati, about the disclosure of the document, the report. Actually, the government it is the prerogative of the government. The government maybe decided to hold it until the draft bill has been passed. Maybe they would soon release it. So it is normally expected any government to hold the document for some time until the solution or things are settled with. So, and soon they may be releasing it, so everyone will be having it. And he also mentioned that the Supreme Court order, it is based on the Supreme Court order. Who did that? In 2016, how the Supreme Court order was based? Was done. The Sankalp, somebody petitioned, and just overnight, the court, decided recall the 2013 judgment. It is just a recall without hearing the parties to the issue, like Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh. Yes, it is. Sir, you can.
No, 1 minute, Mr. Tirupati.
Thomas Kabir judgment had come. Immediately, the Congress government, UPA government had gone on an appeal, and that was the judgment. Please try to understand. Don't mislead the.
Mr. Tirupati, if you're going to interject, one of your two audios will get cut, and I will not be able to do anything. So allow him to finish. I will come to you, and then you can counter him. Yes, Dr. Jawahar.
Yes, it was a 2016 order. It was just without any representation. The bench recalled the decision made, the judgment made in 2013, and unanimously they forced upon this verdict over India. That is one thing. But again, it is no point to discuss all those orders because the NMC, National Medical Commission, was there in 2019. And after that, we have to discuss only the NMC Act only, because at present only NMC Act is binding on us. That is one thing. The other thing is, Madam, you asked me to elaborate on some statistics, on some findings. Before that, I would like to answer Dr. Anita. She mentioned that the NEET-based students did better in the university, whereas our finding did not do so. We have about more than 40 institutions we analyzed. Our medical institutions in Tamil Nadu we analyzed, and we found that there is no big difference between the pre-NEET and post-NEET students. performance in the MBBS program. And especially in the second year in the post-NEET, we observed that the students from the pre-NEET did better marginally than the post-NEET students. So it is our findings. I don't know, that one exception may be from Savita University, I don't know. And see, I have to go back and just give me a point, just 1 or 2 minutes, I will tell you that on the uniformity. You are claiming that the argument is primarily pivoted around the uniformity nationwide, one single window assessment evaluation system. See, are we talking about the quality of education or talking about one single examination? This is between education, which is fostering the learning, as opposed to assessment in the medical admissions. We have to improve the education quality. In order to do that, we have to focus on the learning instead of uniformly, conducting some examination. Without uniform educational access, without uniform quality of education across the India, how are you going to have a uniform examination? That is one point. But the other issue is, you also mentioned that in other countries, they are doing entrance examinations. But I would like to make a point that yes, they are doing, but in United States or in UK, in many progressive countries, the entrance examination is not done by the government. It is done by a private professional organizations, associations. It is not mandatory by law in other countries, in most of the countries. That is one point we have to keep in mind. And also it is not the only criteria, eligibility criteria. It is just only the additional, value they consider in admissions, whereas eligibility is something else. Okay. But you have put NEET as a eligibility criteria. That is very, very discriminatory, and it is very unusual. Otherwise, why do we have higher secondary programs going on across several countries, several states? We can just close down all the higher secondary programs. And you can have only NEET examination.
I would say, Dr. Jawahar, you continue to emphasize on how this is discriminatory. My only limited point is, if it is so, why don't we see a bigger outrage across the country? I mean, are we to say that students from, socioeconomic backward segments or rural backgrounds in any other state, from Maharashtra to Telangana to Bihar or Uttar Pradesh or Punjab, will not be having the same difficulty? Yes, there may be a systemic problem, but is the solution the correct one that we're looking at? The other argument, and I want to know if you found something and if you looked at data when you were preparing this report. The other argument, every time that's given to us, is look at the number, the number of lives we are losing. Students, aspirants who die by suicide because linked to NEET. Is there any analysis done to look at how it is different for students elsewhere who may or may not be taking NEET, or before NEET and after NEET? Because I am simply looking at data year on year, and we do a lot of conversation on student suicides on Mirror Now on the urban debate. In 2019, 1,577 youngsters, students were driven to suicide because of failure in exams across our country. 1,577. After Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu was the second biggest state where student suicide was a problem. So, Dr. Jawahar, my simple question is, should we not look inwards and see if there is a larger problem where we are putting way too much pressure on our youngsters, and may not just simply be about an entrance exam format?
Yes, it is. Who is putting the pressure on it? Before then, it didn't happen. Only after the NEET, it is happening. The pressure is.
You are saying before NEET, students were not taking their lives, or non-NEET aspirants are not taking their lives because of exam pressure?
No, that is in general context. It is in general
context. So it is in general context. To take every NEET example and make it about the NEET format, is that fair? It is a big problem, yes. It is a big concern, yes. But is it the problem? Is the problem with the NEET exam format, or the problem that we as a society put way too much pressure on our students to go through these academics, to score high marks, to give these exams, and to make it to the best of the colleges?
No, it is the NEET exam. It is not the format. See, you are conducting examination based on the CBSE syllabus, whereas these students, more than 80% students have studied under the state curriculum. So you are conducting exam from different boards and syllabus, and this is the problem. And they are scared. They lost the confidence, and they are worried, and they are aspirant, and they were enjoying, such medical entrance before NEET, which they are not able to get now. So this is the problem. It is not about the format. It is about the exam itself and the curriculum, the syllabus you do. And also, without coaching, no one can do. See, 99% of the population in Tamil Nadu who had appeared for, the medical admissions, they have gone through a coaching. And more than 70% of the students who got succeeded in medical admissions are repeaters. 2 or 3 times they repeatedly taken the NEET exam. Is it a business? And this business has grown about 6,000 crores according to our rough estimates in Tamil Nadu alone. So this is not heading towards a healthy academic system and environment. Okay. Because of that, the students are committing suicides.
Okay. And I buy your point about how this has become a business for private tutorials as well. Point, madam. Yes, that is disastrous. So the way our education system is turning out, I completely agree with you, Dr. Jawahar. But let me bring in our other panelists to respond on it. And before I go to our medical experts, Narayan Tirupati wanted to make a point. Go ahead, please.
No, Tanvi, it is not 6,000 crores. If you talk about 6,000 crores, as I said, it's more than 60,000 crores business in Tamil Nadu by these people, the education business people, whether it is private schools or whether it is private colleges. On 4/6/2009, you can visit the Times of India or Times Now. You can see how much, things were created on the day about medical colleges taking huge money from medical students. Number 2, they are talking emotionally about the suicide. It is really unfortunate that the students commit suicide. But as you rightly pointed out, I have in record thousands and thousands of students have been committing suicide, not rating well or fear of examinations of 10th and 12th standard. So will Jawahar Nation would recommend to the Tamil Nadu government to abolish the 10th standard and 12th standard exams in future? What is this? You educationists have to support and give confidence to the people, to the students. The Chief Minister has to give confidence to the students. But it is happening in reverse. Why? Because it is purely a very, very big business in Tamil Nadu. Even private schools, as I very clearly said, there is no discrimination. Please try to understand. There are statistics, facts released by the government of Tamil Nadu. After NEET, we have representation from each and every district of Tamil Nadu. So whatever your report says, the recent report says, A.K. Rajan's report, definitely we are not going to buy it. Whether, this has been shut down by all the courts in, several courts in India, whether it is Mumbai about the normalization. And he is talking about the state board syllabus students. Then what will happen to the central board? CBSE. It is our government, it is the state government which has allowed to say CBSE students study, and you people don't bother about them. What is this? And what we are saying is that there is no discrimination. The entire thing is controlled by the state government only. You have the highest reservation in India, 69% is given in Tamil Nadu, and 7.5% reservation has been given to the students of government schools from last year, more than 400.
Well, I would say
it was only 200. Now, last year alone, it is more than 430 from government schools. What else you want?
Well, and support those who are not able to get access to good quality teaching or preparation for this exam. If there are other faults, Dr. Kaushal Verma, are there other larger faults within NEET that we should look at to make it, easier and simpler for students across the board?
I think the central problem and the main problem, what I said earlier, is the lack of equal educational opportunities in the country, across all sections of the society, across all states. And the second thing is also the education system is not uniform. So I think if we can address these two core issues, the other things will fall in line and everything would be going to be easy and acceptable to everyone. The problems are because of, say, the lack of uniformity between different states, between different institutions, and also between, say, one region to another region. So some people obviously feel that they are at the disadvantageous position if the same platform or the same kind of question paper or the same kind of system is there to judge them. So we have to create the equal platform, equal opportunities for the competition. It's like the person who is competing for swimming, for that matter. The one person who has learned in a 5-star swimming pool, the other person who has learned in a river, and the third person who has learned the swimming in a, say, pond. So there is a problem. And somebody has been coached and somebody has learned on his own and somebody has learned through, say, different means. So there could be problems. So I think the first thing that we need to address is that if we can bring the equal educational opportunities to all the students, if we can do away with the, say, disparity in the educational system across the country, the other things will automatically improve. There would be no, say, complaint, there would be no questions asked, that everybody is competing from the equal platform. So my opinion is that there are issues, there are problems, and say any system would have some deficiencies and would have some lacunae. There would be some advantages also, but I think we need to look at in totality of this matter and then try to proceed further.
Okay, what you've said would be, yes, completely in an idealistic situation, we need to work towards that kind of a system. I would say I would already see, resistance coming in from many states who would want to hold on to the kind of setup they have, the kind of syllabus that they design, that they say work for people in their state. Mr. Meritocracy wants to make a point. Go ahead, please.
The point is that it's not a need to NEET or not to NEET. The real question is NEET alone today decides meritocracy. Several years of schooling the kids have done should not be decided in 1 or 2 hours. It also applies to the intelligent student. I'm not talking about one exam determining one's future and they don't have any other choice is putting a significant pressure that has led to suicide. You need to understand that.
So why don't you do away with board exams?
I'm sorry?
Why don't we do away with board exams?
Well, people are now talking about just don't do the board exam. You have to take the 6th to 12th grade. See, that's the way, I think, a fairer system. That's where the individual schools...
Yes, but that's not the system you are taking into account when you are giving them admission in the medical college, are you? You are still basing it on a 2-hour exam any which ways.
See, we have, as you rightfully said, every schooling is different. Look at all around you. Everybody talks about United States and Europe. Every school is different. People bring in diversity and they know that it makes a difference. So not everybody should not think that school education, the syllabus should not be identical. And it has to be different. People are different. Now, I'm not saying don't give NEET alone. I mean, don't give NEET exam. Don't let people write NEET exam. I'm saying don't judge people and don't make it is the only reason to get an entry into the best and other colleges. It doesn't make sense. I am sure the education is and rational thinking people will agree that the entire thing should not be dependent on one exam.
Yes, that's why then we need to relook at the overall setup rather than just make it about one exam in one state. It's a larger reform that the state should actually be pushing for, and all states should be pushing for, and should be speaking to the central government and coming up with solutions. Completely out of time. I'm going to thank all of my panelists for joining us on this conversation. The issues that are raised about obviously some people being at an advantage over the others because they have better access to better kind of education, to support, they don't have any financial burden, so they can get as many tutorials as they want and prepare for NEET and thereby get an edge over the others is the unfortunate reality. Yes, it's the same reality that exists for any other exam. It's the same reality that exists even for somebody who prepares for class 10th or class 12th board exams. It's the same reality that exists if you have to go to an engineering college. It's the same reality that exists if you try to go to any of the premier colleges as well. That means you need to look at a larger reform about how to put students on the same level so that they can compete with each other. Have the states like those of the governments of Tamil Nadu ever looked at actually providing good support system, good tuition schemes, government-sponsored tuition schemes, government-sponsored special training for NEET entrance exams? Have states like Tamil Nadu and those others who advocate against these exams actually looked at the suicide data? Every time there's an unfortunate loss of life, we very quickly just reduce it to a pro-NEET and against NEET argument without going into the details of what has happened. Are we not going to introspect about how much pressure we are putting on these youngsters? Are we not going to introspect about how at every step we pressurize them to perform the best, to get to the best school, to be on top of your class, to get to the best college? Are we going to ignore that hundreds of students' lives are lost every year in this country because of exam pressure? We don't label it exam specific. We shouldn't. We should look at the larger systemic problem and try and fix that problem. That's my limited point. All the political grandstanding of passing a bill that doesn't get the centre or the president's approval is not going to do anything except provide you with some political brownie points. That's what it boils down to. Thank you for joining us.